What are some of the keys to making a really great play party?
Hmm. Wow, that's so precarious. Because, and I think it relates to some things I said earlier. You want to make it feel safe, right?
Hmm.
But you also want it to be playful. I've been to the play parties that err so much on the side of safety that nobody plays.
Hmm.
Because we're all just sort of like avoiding it and everyone just sort of
Yeah.
like dances near each other. And then I've been to some that didn't have enough of that, and yeah, that's more problematic, obviously. Always err on the side of safety. And so I think one of the things that makes a good play party is activations. So you want to create a safe container, but then you want to activate people inside that container. It's similar to the work I do as a Dom. The two main things I provide for a submissive is containment and activation. There's I want you to feel safe and held, but then occasionally you're going to get an order or a spanking or a jolt or something like that that's going to create a response from you. So we need both of those things. So the same with a play party. Set the container, have the agreements, send out a consent video ahead of time so everyone's on the same page, everyone's signing the same agreements, we're re-signing them at the event. But then there has to be something that gets people going. So maybe it's an activity where people get to interact with different people. Maybe part of it, maybe we need to be warmed up first with verbal shares in the group of what like turns them on. Maybe it's a performance to watch that creates a stirring experience. So I play with all kinds of activations. Another thing that I like to do at my party, besides an hour and a half of that sort of structure at the beginning, is I have stations where people who aren't self-starters can go to a station that's led and guided throughout the night if they need that extra hand holding and support. So there's always something for everybody to do. Because when too many people end up sort of like sitting and nervous on the side, that whole energy becomes stagnant. But you have enough people going,
Yeah.
more and more people get going as well.
Yeah, I think it's been one of the challenges with the play parties that I've been to, or several ones that I've been at too, where the experience can be you either came with somebody that you almost know you're going to play with ahead of time, and those people are either playing, and then everybody else is just standing there with nothing to do or awkwardly interacting, and right, and so there's this kind of tension. So it sounds like one of the ways that you solve that is through creating these like stations. I'm curious, like what would some of the activations like be or available play like, in some of those stations that encourage that interaction and playfulness?
Well, sometimes I'll have a Dom, sometimes I'll have someone leading a Tantric practice. I also have different themes for my mystery temple. So my next mystery temple is called Wildest Dreams, which is all about speaking your desires out. So that's really encouraged at all of my events, but this one in particular, it's about speak your desires. Maybe someone doesn't want to step into that desire with you, but make it alive, put it out there. And yeah, and so part of the activations there will be how can we make some desires come true for other people? You put them out there in the group, see who else might be excited to do the same thing, and get people wanting the same things together in the same space. So that's a way to do it. Yeah, they've been around the theme. So I have a theme called Sacrilegious, which is more about religious deconditioning, and that one I've had someone do a baptism burlesque,
Hmm.
and
What is a baptism burlesque? I have to ask that.
it's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah, it's a it's a burlesque that ends in a baptism, and we had a pool, and she went and she baptized other people in the pool as well. I mean, you just get people naked in the pool, and it's going to be
Yeah.
good, right? So to just have different things that bring up, yeah, that activate people in some different ways.
Hmm. Very cool. Very fun. Um, any You talked about this a little bit before with the guardians and the consent stuff, but anything else that is really important to not simply just have people feel safe, but actually like maintain safety throughout a play party?
Well, one of the best things that I do at my play party, that most play parties don't, is that my play party is sober.
Mm.
So almost every play party that I've been to, it's not a strictly sober event. Why? Because a lot of people need alcohol or weed or something as a social lubricant, right? It lets you put your guard down a little bit. It'll be a little bit more open.
Hmm.
So I want people to get there without the use of substances, because all those substances do that. Another thing that they do is that they lower your ability to be truly consensual. because the more intoxicated you are, the less ability you have to give informed consent. So I think one of the main things that makes my event super safe is the fact that it's a strictly sober event.
Yeah, you mentioned that what you do is you help people kind of reach that similar state, but like with consciousness, with that ability to have, give and receive full consent. I'm curious for that piece. On your website, for at least one of the play parties or temple parties, it talks about like this sort of, you come in, there's like a warm up, and then there's like the doors closed, and then it sounds like guide people through like basically a 90-minute icebreaker. Like, what is that? You don't have to give like that specific on like what that icebreaker is, but like what do those icebreakers really look like? That's taking 90 minutes and like getting those people to that healthy, elevated state.
That 90 minutes includes an introduction to the theme, agreements. Again, we're going over the agreements, and then there's usually 2 or 3 other things, and those things might be either a performance, which I see a performance more as an activation. You watch something that's edgy and sexy and it gets you in space. It could be group shares. It could be a guided activity. It could be sort of like a puja type thing where you're interacting with several different people in a more sensual way rather than explicitly sexual. But it's things to start getting the group warmed up. So that takes about 90 minutes between all of those different steps. And by the time those 90 minutes are over, people are usually, well, they've had about an hour to just get to know each other ahead of time, and then they get those 90 minutes of extra activation, and by then they're usually good to go. And if not, we have activation stations as well.
And are you usually doing some sort of costume tied to the theme? Like, do you encourage a lot of that within it?
Yeah, it depends on the theme. So for sacrilegious, the costumes, for instance, tend to be religious paraphernalia. I had, my last event was called Erotic Avatar. It's the beginning of the year, and it's about choosing what facet of yourself you want to step into for the year. So you choose, and you dress as the erotic avatar you want to be in for the year. The one before that was called Night of Light and Shadow, so it's usually all like black and white and 50 Shades of Grey is the dress code. And some of them have a looser dress code, so it just depends, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.